We are back with Edwin DeJesus Jr., the producer, director, and writer of The Great Griffin, and also the former candidate for New York City Council District 22. Well, before we get into The Great Griffin, because I had more questions I wanted to get involved in, just bring up with you about, about your involvement with politics. But I read something about, as I want to get your views on something here, because where actor Tim Robbins had posted a tweet about the new COVID-19 guidelines here, and they showed the guidelines about those expected to the virus are no longer required to quarantine. Unvaccinated people will have the same guidelines as vaccinated ones. Students can stay in class after being exposed to the virus, and it's no longer recommended. And you made the tweet replying saying that the best decision I ever made was not voting for Biden. What made you say that statement, and why?
Yeah, so a vote is a precious human right, and everyone who is a citizen and can vote needs to exercise it thoughtfully. But every election year, we're kind of given these promises that never come to fruition. For example, what was promised were $2,000 stimulus checks if we got a Democratic control of the Congress. But what ended up happening? They skimped us short and only gave us $1,400. The same thing happens every single year, and it just goes to show that no matter how much you protest, if you're still going to vote the same way at the end of the day, then you're showing that you're willing to go along with those broken promises. Until you actually withhold your vote, then they will start to listen and actually do things that benefit working people. So another example that would affect today's generation of voters, right, would be the student loan forgiveness. Already they're trying to walk that back and say that some people, millions of students, won't be qualified for it. But they're doing it right before a midterm election to get votes. Right? So that shouldn't be the way that things are. I'm glad that I voted for Howie Hawkins, who was the Green Party presidential candidate, because he actually ran on Medicare for all. He actually said healthcare is a human right. Joe Biden disagreed with that. And I can't vote for someone who doesn't view people having affordable insulin, for example, as a human right. That goes against my own moral views.
Yes. Now about the healthcare thing, because a few months ago, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade here, and it was really just a shock to everyone. But what is your view on that? And like, when you heard about this, what were you thinking? And did you agree with that decision, with the overturn of Roe versus Wade?
Yeah, I would say that I disagree with that decision because I do think that every person in this country should have the right over their own bodies, and that the government should have zero control over what people can and can't do medically. And that goes beyond just abortion. I think that should apply to everything from abortion to vaccinations to car ownership to gun ownership. I think the less that we have government intervening in our lives, that the better our own happiness will be. So if abortion gets like overturned back to how it was before the Supreme Court messed it up in June here, then what would be your reaction if that would be the case? If they didn't overturn it?
Like, yeah, basically, if they put into like a legislation law to...
If they codified Roe v. Wade? Well, that was something that the Democrats could have done when Obama was president and had control of the House and the Senate, and he didn't do it. And right now, who's in control? The Democrats, again, of the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like split 50-50 with the House and the Senate, because that's the thing here we got to be careful of here. But there's only like one independent, which probably Bernie Sanders, as we mentioned, if he's still there.
Yeah, well, he votes mostly in line with the Democrats. So Kamala Harris is the tie-breaking vote when it comes to Senate. The reason that they never codified Roe v. Wade, and this is going to be a very uncomfortable truth, is because they can keep fundraising off of it every year. So the more that they can say, we need your money so that we can protect your abortion rights, they're doing that so that they can keep, it's almost like putting a carrot in front of the donkey example, where it's like, well, if you just keep giving us money, maybe we'll fight for it. But every time that they're in power and have full control, they drop the ball. And that's done intentionally, in my view.
So you're basically saying you're not really happy with the way things have been going between Biden and Harris so far, ever since they've been in office, right?
Well, ever since they've been in office, we're at the precipice of World War III, so I don't think it's going very well, to be quite honest.
But they have done some good things so far, but it just takes time, though. But, you know.
It could, but a lot of the fighting is in between members of their own party. It's not so much that the Republicans are halting everything, it's that Joe Manchin, who's just the rotating villain, at the time, is the one who's stopping things. But even if it wasn't Joe Manchin, they would find another Democrat to be the so-called opposition force, because that's the way that they keep fundraising, is because they have a perpetual person to blame and won't refuse to take responsibility for their own actions.
Right. I'm sorry, Joe Manchin. He's making me sick already here. But, you know, listen, enough of this politics, but now we know how you got into it. I wanted us to talk about the film that really changed my life and that got you a whole lot of the Great Griffin Awards, because I remember going back from like 7 years ago or so about everything else. So, but you know, you went, because there was a lot going on when you had to go through the casting and when you casted me, like, tell us like about the process of creating this film, basically, and why you chose to create it. The Great Griffin.
This was a high school project done completely outside of the curriculum. We went to the Academy for Careers in Television and Film, which has a better film program than I think the majority of universities in this country has in terms of equipment, instruction, etc.
And it's like the only high school here in New York City, as far as I know so far.
There's nothing like it, I think, in the country.
Right.
It is an unprecedented program. I think it's very overlooked because it's been around for only like 15 years. And so I thought, you know, while I'm here, let's take advantage and make a big movie. And so from start to finish, from writing the script to casting you and the other actors, to organizing all of the logistics and schedules and getting all of the equipment and crew to operate the equipment, and then all the way into post-production with the editing process and distributing it to film festivals, we're looking at a time span of over 2 years and daily effort every single day, you know, from morning till night outside of class to get this project shot and completed. Yeah,
it was, and I know for a fact it wasn't easy or difficult in doing this, if I'm correct, right?
I do think it was a pretty difficult project to pull off. I mean, we had hundreds of student extras that we were pulling from gym class every day to be a part of this film. So it was a big logistical nightmare, but we got through it.
Well, listen, I can't wait to see this encore of that film, even though I've seen it several times, but I want to give the viewers a chance to see it for themselves, if you're okay with it, those who have not seen it. Shall we?
Yeah, take a look.
Well, all right, let's take a look.